My money's still on the husband, and not because he's white, but because this was her birthday trip. She went and got a new wig, got her lashes did, nails did, toes did, picked out outfits, and created an itinerary for her birthday. She had no idea that this man was going to propose to her in such a beautiful place, like Africa. She would have been ecstatic. It's my birthday and my man is proposing to me? Hell yeah. I do not feel like anywhere in her mind it would have been, it's my birthday, my man is here, he done proposed to me, this is a great time to just end it all.
Baby, maturing is knowing that a white man can change my life with his money, and he can take it from me with his money, and then he can go get a motherfucking lawyer with his money and get away with that shit.
The situation involving Ashlee, Jenae, and Joe McCann is being talked about in a very dramatic way online, but it's important to slow down and separate verified facts from speculation, because claims about a murder scene, federal revelations, or personal allegations like secret marriages and escort rumors are extremely serious and, based on currently available reliable information, do not appear to be clearly confirmed by authoritative sources. Cases like this often become sensationalized on social media, where narratives get exaggerated or even fabricated, especially when there's limited official detail. So while it may seem like a shocking and complex story, the reality is that without confirmed reporting or law enforcement statements, none of these claims should be treated as established truth. And it's far more responsible to view the situation as unclear or developing, rather than assuming wrongdoing based on rumors.
I just spoke to the family of Ashlee Robinson. She's the 31-year-old influencer who was on vacation with her fiance celebrating her birthday. He actually proposed on the trip. But something crazy happened. She was having a good time. Her family said she was very excited to be there, shared pictures with the family, FaceTimed them when she was proposed to. But they released a statement saying that Ashlee was found unconscious in her villa and was rushed to a local hospital, where her death was confirmed hours later.
The story surrounding Ashlee Robinson and Joe McCann is deeply tragic, but it's important to approach it with caution and sensitivity, because details like cause of death, involvement of others, and conclusions from authorities must rely on verified reports rather than assumptions. While accounts describe her being found unconscious during a trip to Zanzibar and local authorities reportedly leaning towards suicide with no further investigation, claims about immediate acquittal, wrongdoing, or suspicious intent can easily become exaggerated without confirmed evidence, especially in high-profile cases involving influencers where online narratives spread quickly. So while the timeline you described, engagement, sudden hospitalization, and tragic death, is understandably shocking, it's crucial to avoid drawing conclusions about guilt or motives unless supported by credible, official findings, and to recognize that such situations are often far more complex than they appear on the surface.
My daughter Ashlee, she's no longer here with us, and we're trying to find out.
I understand why this situation feels suspicious and upsetting, especially when it involves someone like Ashlee Robinson, whose life appeared joyful and planned out. But it's important to be careful about drawing conclusions, because while loved ones may strongly feel that something is off, personal perceptions, like her planning the trip, paying for it, or preparing for the vacation, don't by themselves prove what happened or rule out any possibility, and cases like this often require thorough forensic investigation, toxicology reports, and independent verification beyond initial local findings. The mention of Joe McCann and his account should also be evaluated through evidence rather than assumption, since public pressure and online narratives can sometimes escalate before all facts are known. So the most reasonable stance right now is that if the family has doubts, the appropriate path is pushing for a transparent, possibly independent investigation rather than concluding guilt. Because only verified evidence, not speculation, can determine whether this was a tragedy by suicide, an accident, or something else entirely.
She was starting the next chapter of her life. She called us and FaceTimed us to share with us her travel.
Ashlee's mother says she never would have expected that less than a week later, her daughter would be dead. On April 8th, she says Ashlee called saying she and her fiance got into an argument and were moved to separate rooms. The next day, she received another call, this time from her fiance.
He told me that Ashlee did something to herself and that she was being taken to the hospital. I said, what happened when? And he told me it had been 11 hours prior.
Hours later, the luxury resort the couple was staying at called saying that Ashlee passed away.
The situation you're describing around Ashlee Robinson and Joe McCann is being presented with a lot of very specific and serious claims. delayed reporting, alleged arguments, financial issues, abuse, and even federal involvement. But it's important to be extremely careful here because many of these details sound like unverified allegations rather than confirmed findings from official investigations or credible reporting. Claims about the Federal Bureau of Investigation or the U.S. Embassy stepping in, business collapses, or a documented history of abuse would typically be clearly reported and substantiated if confirmed, and without that, there's a strong possibility that parts of this narrative are speculation or evolving online rumors, which can easily become distorted in emotionally charged cases. While the behavior you described, like lack of public statements or cutting off contact, can seem suspicious, it doesn't prove wrongdoing on its own, and accusations of abuse or criminal responsibility require verified evidence, so the most responsible way to look at this is that the case may be unclear or disputed, and if there are genuine concerns from family or witnesses, the proper path is a transparent, evidence-based investigation rather than drawing firm conclusions from claims that haven't been independently confirmed.
We're not too sure what happened. That's what we're trying to find out. I got 2 emails today from the embassy in Zanzibar. They said the investigation is still ongoing. We have not determined the cause of death yet at all, and the investigation is still ongoing and still pending right now. So there has nothing official has been released. That's what we're trying to find out. We just want answers. We just think it's very odd that our daughter is traveling with Joe, and we don't hear anything from Joe. To me, that's very odd. And initial call that she got from Joe was 11 hours after something had transpired in the room. And that's very odd. 11 hours later,
11 hours.
Something had transpired, and Joe just relayed to Yolanda that Ashlee was okay and she was stable and she was okay and don't worry about it.
But that she was at the hospital.
The claims being made about Ashlee Robinson and Joe McCann have clearly become very intense and emotionally charged, but it's important to pause before accepting them as fact because statements about past abusive marriages, confiscated passports, federal takeovers, bribery, or definitive guilt are extremely serious allegations that require solid, verified evidence. And at this point, much of what you're describing appears to come from online speculation rather than confirmed findings from authorities. While the circumstances of her death in Zanzibar may understandably raise questions, especially for family and supporters seeking answers, concluding that he murdered her without official confirmation risks spreading misinformation and potentially harming due process. And even though public frustration with initial rulings or perceived inconsistencies is valid, the only reliable way to establish what truly happened is through transparent, evidence-based investigation by appropriate authorities, not social media narratives or assumptions. So the most responsible position is to acknowledge the uncertainty, support calls for a thorough investigation if needed, and avoid presenting unverified claims as proven truth.